I'm like, I can be Jack. I want a bigger dick.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's very reassuring to know. All right, then. Right on. Welcome to the Feudal Anime Podcast. I'm Jack. And joining me today is Rick, who apparently wants to be me. And today we're going to talk about Your Lie in April. So how you doing today, Rick?
Well, better after that joke. And yeah, this is a bullshit, complete and utter bullshit anime.
What?
I mean, don't get me wrong. I like it. It was good. But I'm not supposed to cry like a girl when I'm watching an anime like this. Like, it's bullshit.
Well, I did warn you.
You did warn me, but I walked into it thinking you were going to be that asshole who's like, be careful of this, only to have it backfire and not be that.
Yeah, no. When I said it was a very depressing anime, I meant literally that it was very sad. It tugs on your heartstrings big time.
Yeah, well, you said it was a slice of life anime.
It is. That is that is the genre.
A slice of life. Because that is a bad life to live.
Well, I mean, that's the genre. The genre is slice of life. It's meant to give you more of a realistic kind of feel to it.
Realistic? Your mother dies, and then, sorry, spoiler alert, but you find out his mom's dead. Wait, episode 1.
Yeah, just to give everyone a heads up, we do talk about the anime in full, beginning, middle, and end, and there are spoilers throughout.
That said, he loses his ability to hear the notes, and then the chick who helps him hear again, basically, who gives him the foresight, the I don't know what you want to call it, courage or
the
will
drive.
To play again.
Yeah,
the drive. Okay.
Yeah, I would go with the drive.
The chick who gives him the drive ends up dying too. Like, what the hell? How many times can you dick punch somebody before they're like, I don't like it. I don't like it.
Well, I mean, I thought this was a great anime. I mean, like, in all honesty, I mean, like, it touches on a lot of aspects in and of itself. I mean, like, I feel with this one, we can do another deep dive and spend 2 or 3 hours minimum talking about every aspect that goes on in this, because there's a lot that goes on in here in and of itself.
We very well could, and
we're not going to do that.
No, I was going to say, well, to be perfectly honest, my first impression, I wrote some notes down. My very first impression, first 3 or 4 minutes watching it, I write down, this is a really creepy way to draw stuff, because the fingers don't look natural. They look like a mixture of CGI and... They are. And they did that because,
normally when they have a lot of action, they're trying to kind of combine it all together to make it a little bit, seem realistic. I mean, like, especially with the amount of movement that they do, and they don't want it to blur by, because they know a lot of people tend to get, what the fuck type of mentality.
And everything I was looking at, as best as I can tell, it looks like they've actually written the animation follows the actual keystrokes.
Yeah.
Which was kind of cool. I don't know much, so I can't really say for certain, but it definitely looked like it was stroke for stroke, note for note.
Yeah, and that's probably one of the reasons why they wanted to do the CGI for it. They probably wanted to focus more on the actual note placement of the fingers than anything else.
Well, I mean, just looking at it, it looks amazing. And if you were to close your eyes, these renditions are beautifully done. They do take some liberties, let's call them, but overall, I'm not complaining. I think it was masterfully done for what they were given to do.
Oh yeah, no, and they definitely tried making each piece for each individual give it its own feeling, and that was the whole point of it too. You know, they wanted to have each person kind of portray specific emotions when they were playing it: robotic, grating, sad, emotional, angry, lonely. They wanted to have that character, the person who was playing it. They wanted to give them that emotion. They wanted to give them that feeling while they were playing, and I feel like
they did that.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like they did that. It was, in all honesty, too, the soundtrack in and of itself was beautifully chosen. I mean, all the way throughout, they have the tones and the pieces playing, and it fits perfectly, as if the anime was written just for that.
You know, I do get that feeling. I don't get that feeling often, but it did seem like someone wanted to, for lack of a better term, they wanted to make an anime specifically for these pieces, these set pieces. And they did a beautiful job.
Indeed.
Because if you were to take each individual piece that they play and run, I don't know, a feeling comparison, it's very, very clear that each specific portion of the anime was written for that particular song or that particular musical number, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Score. I think it's all, yeah, they call it a score.
Yeah.
And honestly, I like piano. I like hearing people play live more than anything else because I feel that it allows for a certain set of vulnerability. And when you listen to somebody who's doing it live, if they don't mess up, you're with them as far as the triumph. Hey, I did this successfully. This is 100% awesome. And when they fail, you're right there with them too. Like, you know, I that missed keystroke is not purposeful, but you feel it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they give the impression whenever they do stuff in this anime that you're not alone. Like you're doing this with them.
Yeah, and they definitely reiterate that quite a few times throughout. And it starts off in a very, very unique way. It starts off with you seeing a blonde girl just kind of wandering through the streets and following a cat. And that's the opening scene. So you're like, okay, well, you know, it's got to be about her. The primary deal is about her, and it is by far not. She is a part of it, but it's she in equal parts, right? I think it's a third about her, a third and her name is Kaori, Kosei, the main male protagonist, and Tsubaki, who has been the lifelong friend and neighbor of Kosei.
And self-proclaimed big sister figure.
Yeah. She definitely calls herself the bigger sister. He calls her big sister because he is the little brother that can't take care of himself because he just is so focused because of how he was raised, so focused on the music.
Well, not necessarily the music per se. The way his mom had an illness that is not described. It reminds me of ALS, and it vaguely, the disease that the mother has and the disease that the girl has vaguely reminds me of that, where the body starts shutting down and you don't understand that that's what's going on, and they don't expressly say. And supposedly there's this experimental something surgery that'll fix her, which doesn't lead me to believe it's any known disease. If a surgery can fix your disease, you know,
right?
I don't know.
But no, one of the things is it was a particular type of anemia. At least that's what we're led to believe, because she says she's always been a little anemic, and there is a anemia out there where she portrays all the symptoms, and the only things they don't show are bleeding gums, nosebleeds, and skin rashes, right? But other than that, they portray it. And the experimental surgery is a bone marrow transplant, which in and of itself is a risky surgery.
Well, yeah, because I don't want to get be wrong. I want to point that I don't want to be wrong, but don't they have to like make you completely vulnerable to every type of disease in order to accept new bone marrow?
I think you're talking about a white blood cell transplant.
No, well, yeah, where you got to kill all your white blood cells before the marrow can be placed in. Otherwise, the white blood cells will start attacking the foreign marrow. I think, I don't know, but that's not what we're here to talk about.
Indeed. No, but anyways, you don't know that she has any disease right in the very beginning. You just know that Kosei is, writing music. Tsubaki is very protective of him, and she doesn't. And you find out how protective she is of him, despite the fact he got hit in the head with a baseball in the very beginning when he tries to pick by her. But on accident, mind you. She didn't do it on purpose. When he goes to pick up some glass and she runs over and grabs his hand and tells him that he shouldn't do that because, he's a pianist. If he cuts his fingers in too deep, he can lose the ability to play the piano as perfectly as he does.
The reason he plays it so perfectly is not because he's talented. It's because his mom forced him to play hours and hours and hours. And his motivation to play when he was a child was to help his mom get better, because he was under the impression, he believed, because his mother told him, that when he does well, it's better than medicine for her.
Exactly. And
so he thought if he played perfectly, he could heal his mother.
Yes.
Unfortunately, she passes away, and as a result, he not only loses his ability to play, but he keeps saying he loses the ability to hear himself play. It's his punishment for not. Go ahead.
No, it's not that he loses the ability to play. He loses the ability to hear. It becomes muffled. It's as if he's underwater while he's playing.
But it's only his own playing.
Right. He can hear everything else. And you're right. He does say that it is his punishment. Right. And you find out why he believes it's his punishment. And what actually happens is 2 years before this actually happens, his mother had died. Everyone's commenting on him being like a robot, and it's unbelievable. His mother just died, and here he is playing like nothing happened. And halfway through his performance, he stops crying because he can't hear it anymore. He finally snaps. It finally all comes back. It haunts him, and you find out why. It's because he blames himself for his mother dying. It's not that he did horrible or anything like that. No, you find out that after his performance, the last one his mother ever heard, he was very happy, very emotional. He wanted to do really well for his mother, and she heard it. So when he was done, he went to her and he said, hey, how did I do? And she was upset that he didn't play it true to the score, like note for note, exactly how it was written, at the pace, at the everything, that she had literally beaten into him, because he had bruises all over his arms, and you can tell that he was abused. He even talked about being abused. Everyone else talked about him being abused, because he had to play it true to the score. And she hit him so hard that he started bleeding, and he threw the papers at her and said, "I hope you die." And then she dies.
His last words to her were so brutal that he doesn't forgive himself.
Exactly. And so she haunts him for saying that.
Metaphorically speaking.
Yeah, metaphorically speaking, for saying that.
Yeah, it's honestly, that hits home for probably a lot more people than not, because everyone said something really messed up to their parents. Everyone. So some people whom I've encountered don't care. Some people care very deeply that, oh dear Lord, that could have been my last thing I said to my mom. And they learn from it.
Yes.
But a lot of people don't.
And a lot of people don't get the opportunity. So he goes through, and it follows him along through everything that he does when he tries to play for himself or in competition. So after he stopped hearing it, he stopped playing. And it was 2 years after that event, after that had happened. And at that point, he's introduced to Kaori, who forces him basically to become her accompanist, because she just plays so wildly that
that no one can keep up.
Right. And while they're playing, he stops hearing his own music. He can hear her, but he can't hear himself. And so he's hammering away at the keys. He's just playing it hard. And he's picking up the tempo because he's panicking and he can't hear it. And so he stops. He's like, I can't play this. I'm ruining her performance. I got to stop. And so he stops. And then she stops.
I should probably mention that in this competition, it is explained that if the accompanist stops, it actually might help the performance simply because he's doing so poorly, or he or she, I should say, is doing so poorly. However, if the person who's meant to be showcased stops, they're basically done. Like,
they're disqualified.
It's not something, disqualified. You can't stop and pick it up back up. You can't catch your breath because you'll just ruin your performance, essentially.
Yeah, and she's a violinist, and so he's accompanying her. And so because he stopped, she stopped. And so she looks at him, she's like, tells him, through her look, says, let's start again. Just listen to my music. And so they start playing, and they play a beautiful piece, and everyone's cheers and applause. And that's the beginning of it all. That's the beginning of his step forward.
Now, what's interesting to say, we kind of skipped over this. Earlier, his friend who sees him as a brother at this moment in time was saying that he's 14. His eyes should pop. He should see color. He should see sparkle in the eyes, And she was saying that his eyes were dull, and he mentions that he doesn't see a world of color. And it's brought back over and over and over that once you find someone you love, your world changes, and you get to see colors that you didn't previously know about, and everything's brighter and everything's happier. And the second that he at this moment in time, he's very dull, and he sees everything as monotoned. So it's to him a depressing life, as is his punishment for being so mean to his mother.
Yeah.
And his best friend, who's very popular, his male best friend, extremely popular, soccer genius essentially, great with the ladies to the point of being a player, is being set up by
Tsubaki. Yeah. Because Kaori said she wanted to get with Watari. She found him very cute.
And to avoid being the third wheel, Tsubaki decided to have Kosei come with him to be, and I'm going to quote because this is a very important thing that keeps going on and being repeated, he becomes friend A. And originally it was thought to avoid having Tsubaki be the third wheel. And if the conversation starts to lull, since you both are musicians, you'll have something to talk about to pick back up on the conversation. Now, of course, Kosei arrives early, and he very, very weirdly finds, what was it? They're not tights, but like
leggings.
Leggings and
shoes hanging from a tree.
And he hears music, and he's like, this is awesome. Okay, I'll go take a look. So he still has the shoes and the leggings in hand, and he walks up and he sees this gorgeous blonde playing an instrument. It looks like a mix between a piano and a sax. I'm not quite sure what that's actually called, but she's playing it well, and she's essentially giving a music lesson to 3 young children. Now, I should probably pause this to tell you that they don't scale height for age very well, because Watari, Kaori, Tsubaki, and Kosei are all roughly 14. However, 13-year-olds look like toddlers when standing side by side. I'm not quite sure if they think that they're going to grow that much in a year or what's going on.
To help differentiate the age difference, or rather the difference in between the grades, is what I feel. Anyways, but beside the point, that's how they are first introduced. That and while she's playing, he takes a picture because all of the kids start playing with her, and the pigeons start flying around, and wind blows, and right when the wind blows, he takes a picture, and she has her skirt up. And so
100% accidental. I should probably mention that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, it is definitely accidental, but that does not stop her from being pissed off about it, like, at all.
And beating the crap out of him.
Yes. And then instantly when her lover boy shows up, changes tune quite drastically, I might add. Relatively quick, too.
It's kind of funny. She goes from I will kill you, and they throw like a double voice on her, which is kind of cool, where she's got this demonic voice coming at you. And then as soon as Watery shows up, she's this prim and proper princess, super forgiving, in front of him. And then when she looks at Kosa and gets really close, she goes, if you ever do this, I will kill you and they won't find the body.
Yeah. And that's their first meeting. Well, to Kosei. Anyways, that's the first time they've ever met. She actually has known about him, and her parents, you find out as well, are very big fans of his as well. And in fact, from his very first performance, his very first recital, I would say. Yeah.
Yep.
Effectively affected her course in life. She wanted to play a violin because he was playing the piano so beautifully. He wanted to, or not he, but she wanted to play the violin and have him accompany her because of this.
She was originally a pianist, and when she heard him play, her only desire. This goes back to the whole, you start to see different colors because of love and all this other stuff. You start, your eyes are open to the world, and she changes right then and there her instrument of play, and she wants to be a violinist so that he could accompany her and they could play together, and then potentially their love could grow. This is all her as a child 2 years prior, so they're 12 years old, but she, again, looks like a 4-year-old.
No, this isn't just 2 years prior. This is years prior.
Well, he stopped doing it 2 years ago, so that means...
Yeah, no, but it was his very first recital.
Oh, that's right. You got me on that one. Okay.
Yeah, it was his very first one. They were very young. I would say like they were in middle school, like before middle school. They were, I don't know, probably 7, 8 years old.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense because they considered him a prodigy.
And so it was at that time. You know, I would even say probably younger than 7 or 8, but at that point it affected her life, you know, and it changed the course. And in fact, his two rivals as well, or they consider him to be a rival. You have Takashi and Emi, who both took up the piano because of him. Emi first heard him at his first piano recital, same thing as Kaori, except she was so overwhelmed, so touched by his music, she started crying at the end of his recital. And then Takashi heard him later on, and he was very, robotic, is what people called him, like his mother's puppet, the human metronome. And Takashi found him very, like, superhero-like. He was, like, precision across the board. And so both of them took up the piano because of this, and they wanted to fight, or musically anyways, because of this. Emi wanted the guy that he was before, and Takashi just wanted to win, wanted to prove he could beat his superhero, so to speak, in a matter of speaking.
Yeah, and the cool part about that whole thing is, in the hero sense, he would show up, he would do his job, then he would leave before even the
results
standings were announced.
Yeah,
the results were announced. And he thought it was so cool because he didn't play to win. He played because it was the right thing to do. At least that was his impression.
No, actually, he walked away, and his impression was he's leaving because it's as if the outcome was already determined. Like, he didn't even need to look at the results. He knew he was going to win.
Oh, see, I didn't take that away. I watched the English version. Which one did you watch?
The dub. Or not the dub, sorry, the sub. And the sub, he says it pisses him off because he's walking away as if he already knows the outcome.
And in the English version, it says he's upset because, or it pisses him off because he walks away as if he doesn't care.
Yeah, he says that too. He doesn't care because it's as if he knows the outcome, which is him winning. I mean, like, he's playing it true to the score. Like, that's why they make fun of him, or not make fun of him, but talk trash, is because he is literally playing it to the score. It's on tempo.
It's flawless.
Yeah. And that's the only thing the judges can judge you on. And so because he's playing it so perfectly, he is
He's a shoo-in to win every
Yeah.
single time.
Exactly.
Competition-wise. But personality-wise, apparently he's lacking. He falls behind everybody else because the way that he plays is not to show emotion, it's to play exactly what's on the paper. And that's the way his mother taught him. His mother taught him to honor the composers.
Right.
That
Right.
who were you to challenge the late great whoever wrote it?
Yeah.
Chopin, Mozart, all them. And if you don't do it the way that they wrote it, you are a failure because you're not living up to what you could do.
And you actually find out later on that she was worried about him. His mother was actually worried about him in general, whether or not he was going to be able to take care of himself, whether or not he was going to be able to make a living. And you find out that the reason why she was so hard on him, sometimes to excess, is that she just wanted him to be able to make a living. And the one thing that the judges could really judge him on was just the music and him staying true to the piece and how it was written. And that's why he actually always won, is because he stayed true to it. To a fault sometimes, but
in competition, they really don't care about where your heart's at or how much emotion you put into the piece. And so the reason he kept winning and he got the nickname the Robot was because he was always doing the more difficult pieces that would score much higher, and he would do it flawlessly, just as the piece was written. And you really can't get any marks down. You can't get marked down until you're probably, I would say, an adult competing against professionals. But by then, you'd probably have your own, I guess, how do you say, technique?
Yeah.
Or following, so that you'd have people willing to pay to see you be perfect, for lack of a better word.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel that's really what this whole thing was about. It was him coming into his own. It was him learning, and despite the fact that he, had to endure loss not once but twice. That Kosei had to deal with death twice, and both times it was the exact same disease. Apparently,
extreme heartache.
Yeah, and that was apparently the only way to get him to truly grow. And he even references a point to where he says that the music just gets in his way. The sound now gets in his way.
Now, the cool part is during this, do you have to remember what was the episode title? Because the title was the name of the piece he was playing.
Love Sorrow.
Sorrow. So that piece his mom played quite often, so he wouldn't get scared of sorrow, because she knew when she left him, she's going to leave this hole. Now, what's kind of cool is in this particular episode, when in this point of the story, he realizes what her true intentions were. And instead of her being some evil figure looming over him, she becomes and transforms in his mind's eye into this loving, nurturing thing that only wants him to succeed. And he gets over his lack of being able to hear the notes.
Yeah.
And it's quite beautiful the way they play the song. They're not the song, they play the piece. And it's kind of funny. If you were to ever go to, side note, if you were able to go to actual recital and you hear people play flawlessly and then you hear someone play with passion, they're equally awesome, but completely different. Even though they're playing the same notes, same melodies, it's just, you can tell who really likes it and who is just practice.
You can tell, you can feel the emotion behind it all, is what you can do. And
it's really, really awesome.
It is. It's a beautiful thing. It's wonderful. But yeah, it really comes to fruition throughout the whole thing. And then he has his, as we had talked about earlier, he has his rivals, so to speak. And you really tell the difference, and they can tell the difference in his overall mentality when he's talking to them, and the fact that he actually acknowledges their existence now too.
Yeah. Whereas before, he didn't have anybody because he didn't recognize anybody. He wasn't competing, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Before, it wasn't a competition. He knew he would win. It in a matter of speaking, he knew he would win. Hands down.
Yeah, it was more of a, well, that was fun. I'm going to go collect my first place. And
Be on my way.
who are you again?
Yeah.
Who are you? Why are you here?
And the reason why he always did it, he played to win, was because his mom told him that it was the best medicine. Like you had said, she had told him that it was better than any medicine could ever get.
It's kind of brutal to tell a child, but
It is. It is very brutal.
you could see why she did it.
Mm-hmm.
He became a success and didn't really need his father. He was able to get a part-time job because of music and all that stuff.
No,
Thanks.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, his father was never there anyways. His father was always traveling for work.
True. And as he goes through, it's kind of funny. After that recital, you see that he was super upset that Calorie didn't show up. And he's like, I had to do this alone. I'm going to find out where she is. And what's kind of cool to me is whenever anybody in this series is upset, they've got like a plushie that accompanies them.
Oh,
so
yeah.
you don't really see everything way upset. You just like, he gets mad whenever he's like in deep impassioned anger. You see cows because he likes milk.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You know, they even reference the brand. I think it's a funny brand too. It's like Moo Moo Milk.
Yeah.
Moo Moo Milk. All right. That's cool. Right on.
And you see him begin to graduate as far as mental capacity goes.
Yes.
As the show goes on, and his one-time rivals and enemies become friendly enough towards him and vice versa that he shares his egg sandwiches.
Yeah. And they have full-on discussions about this. You know, about the differences in the ways you can make it and how it tastes great and everything like that. And it really shows as well towards the end when they see him, you know, and he's distraught and they're like, you need to take care of yourself, man. You don't look so good. Should we take you to the hospital and everything like that? It's like, no, they were genuinely concerned about him. And his only feeling is that he needs to play. He has to play. And the reason why he has to play is because Kaori is going through her own trial, and she's about to have this very dangerous, very risky surgery that she may not live from, and that it may only prolong her life, not even that long,
and not even heal her. It might just fix her to get through another year.
Exactly, and she was willing to do that
simply to play with him, to hear him sing again. Or not sing, so hear him play again and play alongside him, which you find out at the end was her whole goal. Like,
yeah, you find out that
was the lie in April.
Her lie in April was the lie that she wanted to meet Watari, her Kosei's friend. Her lie was she wanted to be with him because she liked him, and it wasn't that at all. She wanted to be with Kosei. She loved Kosei, and she even says this at the very end in a very heartfelt, very, very heartfelt letter that she had written in the stationery that they bought together when she was on her last time out of the hospital. A very beautiful love letter.
If that doesn't hurt your heart, I don't know what will.
Yeah, no, she tells him everything. I lied in April. I didn't want to be with your friend. I wanted to be with you. I loved you.
She says she needs someone a little more sincere.
Yeah, and she couldn't stand to see him being the robot that he was. She wanted him to feel the music the way he did before, how he played it with color. And this really also plays well, too, in the last episode when he's playing his piece and everyone can feel it. They're overwhelmed with emotion. To the point of tears because they can feel the heartbreak and the sadness behind it all. And while he's playing, he spiritually is playing with her at the end. And it is their last piece they're playing together, man. And it is heartbreaking and sad and beautiful all at the same time.
It rounds everything out flawlessly. Now, I realize we're skipping over a bunch of stuff, but it's inconsequential as far as the story goes. The main points are he gets over everything, his own issues, and he learns to essentially love again and play with somebody else and play for somebody else. You find out that friend A isn't just the stand-in. You find out that he was the objective.
Yep.
And she could never bring herself to tell him
until after, sadly, after she had died with a letter.
Yeah, her last will and testament, essentially.
Yeah, and through this whole time, Tsubaki too, his friend, lifelong friend, is struggling with the idea of everything, and her finally also at the end coming to terms that she loves him too. And she, in a matter of speaking, tells him this too at the very end. At the end of the last episode, she finally tells him this.
Yeah, it was kind of cool how they went about that.
Yeah. It wasn't a straight up "I love you." It was an "I love you" though, in her own way, and you can tell that he knew exactly what she was saying.
And instead of being kicked in the dick or anything like that, he got a bloody shin.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's same premise, just different execution.
In light of everything, taking it all into consideration, how would you rate the series?
Well, given the nature of the series, I couldn't F.A.P to it, but that's mainly because I don't do sad very well. Tears are great for lube, so I'm told. No, honestly, it's amazing. It very, very good storytelling. A little bit cliched at times, but I would say 4 to 5 F.A.Ps.
All right.
What about you? What do you think?
I give it I give it a solid 5. A solid 5 F.A.Ps. Yeah. It is great. It's something that I literally I could buy it and watch it multiple times. It is just, I personally find it a great anime personally, especially for the music in and of itself. I mean, the music pieces were beautiful, to say the least. It's as if the anime was written around it. I know I said that before, but it's as if it was written for it.
You're not wrong. You're 100% correct on that. It does feel like they were writing it as they were listening.
So it was really, yeah, I give it a 5 personally.
Fair enough.
Well, I think that's about it for today. Next week is Mr. Rick's choice. So what's our anime?
Since you want to make me feel, I'm going to do a little bit nitty gritty for you.
All right.
91 days. Now, I don't have the synopsis in front of me. However, it is a dated or a time period piece about rum running and the mafia. I personally like it. It has a very somber feel to it, and it's one of those anime that does not leave an open-ended feeling, and just it's like a very good book to me. It has a very good beginning, an interesting middle, and a satisfying conclusion.
All right.
Have you heard of it before?
I have not, but I went ahead and I looked it up. Looks pretty interesting. So a child living in the town of Lawless gets brought back in 7 years later, and he wants some revenge from the looks of it. Looks pretty good to me. I'm looking forward to watching it, and we'll definitely reconvene on that next week. If you would like us to do a deeper dive on this anime or any other anime, please feel free to let us know at feudalanimepodcast@gmail.com. Catch you all next time.
Later.